So the thing with doing deals, why I obsess on the education side, is because you never lose money learning, right? It's not in the education you lose money, it's in the implementation and the execution of it. The biggest problem or the biggest mistake you can make in buying businesses is you just start buying them. You go, I was listening to her and I just kind of started doing it. Please don't do that. Go and learn, whether it's from me, whether it's from somebody else. Go and become a little bit obsessed with the process of execution. And only then, after you've been obsessing for 3 or 6 months, should you think about actually purchasing the business.
What it is, Brad Lee back again with another episode of Dropping Bombs. Today in the studio, folks, as always, I got a real treat for you, but today it's a special treat. Cody Sanchez in the house.
Hey, Brad, excited to be here.
I call her Queen of Instagram, Queen of social media. But in reality, folks, if you don't know who she is, she's founder and CEO of Contrarian Thinking. She's definitely an influencer. You're all over social media. That's how I first discovered you. And, you know, you're smart. You're buying businesses. You're doing, like, you're smart.
I don't know about that, but I do buy businesses.
You seem smart, and you're very comfortable on social media.
Yeah, I wasn't in the beginning. Maybe similar to you. I definitely had to get there. I'm more comfortable in spreadsheets, but now social media is just a tool. So you got to figure out how to use it.
Why spreadsheets? So were you a bookworm as a kid?
Yeah, definitely. Bookworm. And then I was in finance forever. So finance will teach you how to spreadsheet often and how to PowerPoint. I think people think investment bankers are really clever, and mostly we just play with Excel and play with PowerPoint, and that's about it.
Now, let me bring you back to high school.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. But seriously, let's go back to when you were, I don't even know how old you are, but you don't look very old. So
that's right. Good answer.
How long ago was it? I don't really care, but let's go back to high school. You graduate high school. Where are you living? Phoenix?
Phoenix. Yeah.
And rich family, poor family, average family?
Pretty average.
And did you go to college? What was your plan?
Yeah.
Getting out of high school, what was your plan?
I wanted to be a journalist. That was the plan. I'd go and be a print journalist. I wanted to work for the Wall Street Journal. I wanted to work for the New York Times. Not anymore. And that was the plan. And then I started being a journalist for about a year. I graduated a year early. And then I realized, I don't want to just write about stuff. I want to change things. And I don't think journalists get to change stuff as much as they do just cover it. And so then I went into finance instead of doing that.
Why finance?
Because I didn't understand money. And I realized that money is really just power. And so if you can understand money, you can probably get more money. And the people at the top are there because of money. I mean, it's actually funny, Brad, the other day. So we're pretty involved in politics from a funding perspective. So we meet with a bunch of candidates and figure out who we want to fund, right? Because I think I've had 2 businesses go under because of bad regulatory changes back in the day. And so I don't like when people overreach from a regulatory perspective. But I was at an event the other day and it was tiny, maybe 30 people. And I asked the guy who was hosting it, why this is a big politician here who's running for, why would he do this event with 30 people? You and I do events with thousands. And he said, this room will raise more than a theater full of 10,000 people. And I thought, wow, that's the game. It's 30 people with money making decisions for hundreds of millions. And so if we don't understand money, somebody else is going to understand it for us.
It's funny that you say that, because now a lot of these people in this industry like the 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 room, deals, but it's mostly ego.
Yeah.
Because it feels good. Look at this. But in reality, same thing. You put, 100 people in a small group, vetted 100 people, and you'll sell more or generate more revenue out of that little room than you will the big one.
Yeah,
isn't that crazy?
Right. Well, I also think it's easier to make an impact on 100 or 1 than it is 10,000. I mean, we did that event, and it's super fun. There's an energy. I can only imagine what it feels like to be an artist that goes on a stage in front of tens of thousands. There's a real energy to it. It's cool. But, we have a bunch of groups where we try to teach people how to own businesses. And the reason that I do small groups and I keep it pretty small is because I can't get 10,000 people all at once to make change. But I could probably get 10 to 100 people in a room to make some change.
Why are you so passionate about that?
I think ownership is the key to freedom. And if
true ownership.
And it doesn't mean you have to own the entire company. It means you have equity in it. It means you have a revenue share or a profit share. It means you know that your time, if you do more, you will make more. And I think we've lost a little bit of that as a society. Most people, which is crazy to me, most people have a job and they do not actually know how they make money for the company they work for. What? You want to make more money, you want to get a raise, but you don't actually know what the revenue or value is that you drive to a business. You don't know what you're worth, and yet you spend all day doing a thing. I think that's wild.
That's an interesting perspective from a business owner, though.
Right. I mean,
you're like an employee advocate.
I am. I don't think everybody should be an entrepreneur. I think it's hard. I wasn't clever enough to start a business from scratch. I had to buy them because I didn't have a brilliant idea for a startup. And so I think if you can stand the pain of ownership, because it's simple, but it's not easy, then I think you should own a business.
Well, I want to define owning versus operating, because some people own it, but they're operators. They don't own the business. The business owns them.
That's a good point. Yeah. Well, I think about operators a couple different ways. We have operators who run businesses that I own, right? And those guys
you own.
Yeah, right.
But see, there's a differentiator right there.
Yeah.
They're operating, you're owning.
Right.
What would you rather be, operator or owner?
Well, it depends. I definitely want to be an owner. But for those operators, all of them get equity in the business. So they're an owner of the business too. They just don't want to take on the same risk that I do. Because there's a lot of risk. The buck stops here. This is a big office building. You got a bunch of people here working for you. You know what it feels like on Friday night probably to say, we're not going to have enough cash, so I'm going to fund the payroll out of my bank account. Like I've been there in businesses before. And so not a lot of people want that. But for the people who do, it's the highest ROI of anything you can do in your life.
How do you start a business with zero money then?
You become the operator first, I think. You go and you get the money from somebody else and you put in the sweat equity and the work until eventually you have enough money for somebody else to put in the sweat equity and the work. At least that's what I did.
Now, when I read your bio here, Contrarian Thinking, one of the fastest growing financial media businesses with millions of followers, 100 millions of views monthly, every month, and founder of Contrarian Thinking Capital. See, I like your contrarian. That's your real.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yours is better, though, because mine has too many vowels.
Well, not only that, but I mean, like real. Like you want a real business?
Yeah, it's good.
You know what I'm saying? You want a real relationship?
Plus, everybody can spell it.
You want to make real money?
Yep.
So real was just kind of like, and I'm the real Bradley. But a real business to me is you own it. I'm talking about what you're doing, not the operator. Operators are great and all that, but I'm not an operator. I am one, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I need to get out of being one. I want to be able to watch a business grow and thrive without me.
Yeah.
And I've never been able to do that. Why?
In any business?
No.
Interesting.
Because I think I have my own reasons.
What do you think it is?
That I'm not a very good leader.
Interesting.
Because a real leader can empower and inspire and support.
Yeah.
I do the opposite.
You give them a hard time? Yeah,
I walk in, I'm like, what are you, fucking stupid? Like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you know what we're here for, right? What are you doing? Dude, move over. Let me do it.
Well,
and then
that's
I'll
the
do
bad
it.
Part.
I know. I can't help it. Why? Because, dude, listen, these are my customers, man. They're going to hate me.
Yeah.
So trust me, I've struggled with it for years. Now I'm getting better at it and it's starting to work. Why? Because, believe it or not, I'm starting to, I think, become a better leader.
Yeah. Well, one of the hacks to being a better leader, I think, is hiring people who are better than you categorically at some of the things you need to do.
Where are they at?
I mean, for instance, Tanner, poor guy, whenever he travels with me, I always point him out. If I had to operate that camera that he's operating and shoot these shots that he's shooting, we wouldn't get this podcast. This would be a nightmare. And so I purposefully hire people in different positions for things that I'm not good at. And I try to hire the best I humanly can because they're just better than me at it. If you had to, my CMO who does funnels and conversions and websites, I don't know anything about that. So I think, first I like to tackle offboarding the things that I'm already not an expert at. And let somebody be awesome and best in class at that. And then you go closer and closer and closer to your zone of genius. The hardest things to offload is your zone of genius.
What is yours?
My zone of genius is usually strategy for the business overall at the top. It's really hard to hire great strategists. And the second thing strategy is really hard, but strategy is also really fun for me. So I can stay involved in the high level strategy. And the second best thing is like partnerships. So partnerships to me defined as the deals we're going to do. It's still hard for me to offload complete, put the finger on the wire to send money for a business. I still like to look at it before we do that. And partnerships like, hey, we're going to work with this person. We're going to do this person. Those I still control more than I probably should.
What kind of education do you have?
Well, I went to Arizona State, so super
Party school.
Yeah, not anything impressive for undergrad. I went to a public high school, nothing impressive there. Then I did go to Georgetown for grad school, so I got my MBA there. And then I did an extension from Georgetown where I got a PhD, but in Brazil.
Damn.
So it's basically like cachaças, caipirinhas,
So it's doctor.
It's Dr. Sanchez. I always giggle about that. But yes, technically I have a PhD and I did a thesis on pension fund investing by Brazilian pensions. It's riveting stuff.
And you are finance, aren't you?
Yes, that's where I started.
It's like real finance.
It is, yeah.
It's interesting that you ended up where you are.
Yeah.
Because now you come across on social media as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the things I talk about a lot is that I came to entrepreneurship through a very corporate lens, which is not normal. Like, I don't know anybody else actually who's a content creator and public who went to Goldman Sachs and went to Georgetown and had all the traditional credentializing, because our industry that we're in, where we talk publicly, it's sort of frowned upon by those institutions.
Is it?
Yeah. They're like, well,
snake oil type?
Not even that. It's retail versus institutional. So if you go to finance and you look at the highest tier of finance, they call it institutional finance. So that's where I am selling an investment to a sovereign wealth fund, right? And I used to do that at State Street and at First Trust. And then the next level down is I sell investments, or I invest money for second tier, which is like family offices or financial advisors. And then at the bottom, as seen from like a fancy perspective, is retail, which would mean you and me. Edward Jones, I'm going and knocking on doors and I'm asking to invest your money, and I invest in your money. So you go all the way from the top to the sovereign wealth funds, CalPERS, CalSTRS, UTIMCO, to me and you door knocking. And so they sort of see, if we talk to the masses, there's this belief that talking to the masses is not as sophisticated as talking at the top. Now, I categorically disagree with that, and I think it's dumb and outdated, but the industry is still there.
Yeah.
And it's actually really dumb and outdated from a mathematical perspective too. Get this. So when I was at Goldman and State Street, if I wanted to invest their money for them, they might pay me, if I wanted to go to a sovereign wealth fund, a really rich guy in Abu Dhabi, and manage their, energy money, they might pay me 1/10 or 1/20th as much as a retail client, you and I, might pay. So actually, that's a volume game over here. Whereas if you come down on the lower end of the spectrum, you can charge more.
How much?
A lot. I mean, 2 and 20 is what 2% of every dollar you give me, and 20% of profits is what we charge in the institutional realm. I don't have a fund, so I don't do this anymore, but that's what we used to charge.
So if I give you $10 million, regardless of the performance?
I take 2% of that. And I take 2% of that every single year that I have your money. And then if I return you $1 million, there's something called a hurdle rate, but we could just ignore that for right now. Like, I have to return X amount of percent, and everything over that, I take 20%. So if you give me,
you're my partner.
Yeah. If you give me $1 million and I'm an institution like Goldman Sachs, and I return $1 million back to you, then I'm going to take 20% of that return that I gave you.
The return is above my million.
No, it's actually
if I give
above,
you $1 million and you give me $1 million and you take 20%, it's like
like I give you $1 million back.
Profit.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, well, 100%. Again, I mean, I'm a fair guy. That's fair to me.
So that is what the retail investors get. When you go to UTIMCO or these big pensions or sovereign wealth funds, they don't play that game. They go, you're going to charge us 1%, and maybe you'll take 5 or 10% of our total amount.
Yeah, because the total amount's like $6 billion.
Really big. So in my view, actually retail investors are better. If these guys sell out of your funds, what are you going to do? Like, you have somebody move $500 million. You have to make that liquid for them. You have to find all new clients for them. So you have individual client risk at a lower total cost. And then here you have diversified clients overall at a higher total cost. I actually think this is a better business. But anyway, finance doesn't see it that way.
Is this what you do all day long?
I mostly invest in small businesses now individually. So I used to run private equity funds. I used to invest at a bigger stage. We had a company called First Trust in Latin America. It was about $1 billion under management, not $1 billion in revenue, $1 billion in assets under management for everybody listening. And I did that for a number of years, and then I just started to buy businesses by myself, and that's what I spend most of my time on. And now a lot are content business too.
The content's the one that's getting you all the attention.
Right.
And then,
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one is getting you all the money.
That's right.
Which, by the way, as you'll probably agree, this one is going to fuel even more money. Like, when I accidentally messed around and built kind of a little brand, personal brand, it blew up everything.
I think that was my bet.
It's got to be. So you did it intentionally.
Yeah.
See, smart. Who told you to do that? I accidentally discovered it.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah, no one told me to do it, but I did witness a couple people doing it, and I did realize. So yeah, I discovered it through realization. But
you were early too. I mean, how long have you been doing this for?
Since you were like 5, maybe even before you were born. I don't know how old you are, but I've been doing it 24 years.
Oh my God, that's wild.
It is wild. And people are like, well, there wasn't social media. I know, but I'm talking about what we do. It's very simple what happened. I basically helped somebody, and for the first time wanted to help people. Before that, it was all about me. So I'm like, man, I want to help people. And I could teach people how to sell, close, persuade pretty well. I'd pull people out of Burger Kings and turn them into badasses relatively quickly and show them how commission will change a life. Yep. So I'd hire them, give them the job, train them, and boom, they'd start winning. And I felt like a champ. And so I'm like, I want to do this for a living. So I quit to go do that. And then I went out there and realized that it's not as easy. And I couldn't figure out why it wasn't working. So I did a little math, figured out why it wasn't working, and then realized I basically have to work at all these places in order to do it. So I invented Lightspeed. That was 24 years ago. Then I ran into competition, all the other big name trainers that were out there. And so I said, man, I'm going to either get crushed by these guys or I can collaborate with these guys. And I knew that they didn't have my software. So I went and started closing the trainers to use my software and letting them be the big name expert. I just bowed out of that.
I think that's brilliant.
And so that's kind of how this started. But and then 24 years, I just been building the platform.
Interesting. Well, I mean, it's smart if you think about it. How did people make money in the gold rush? The picks and shovels, right? Yeah. Everybody wants the shiny object, but they don't realize that the infrastructure is what lasts.
Yeah. Well, again, I mean, I came full circle though, because as I was doing that, that's why I've done it so long. I kind of bowed out of social media. By the way, it wasn't in existence for a while, but when it came around, I didn't have any social media accounts, but all my clients did. Mm-hmm. And I was helping them and, showing them, and some of them introducing them and basically showing them how to build their brand and get attention, ultimately to sell courses and their tickets and stuff. So I watched how their brands grew, and that brand fueled sales. And not only that, but not just their sales, which I participated in, but just business. Like, dude, they were getting deals that they had no business talking about or getting, but they got it because of the brand.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, maybe I better build myself one of these.
Absolutely.
So I started, and same thing's happening. It's just I didn't have the vehicle like they did. So I had to quickly catch up and go create these vehicles.
Yeah. Smart. Yeah. I mean, I never thought that I would look up to people like the Kardashians, but I think watching what they've done, how they transfer attention to money is fascinating.
And a business, technically.
Yeah. I mean, and they did it again and again and again. You don't usually strike lightning in the same place multiple times.
So what do you really want Like you want to own 1 million businesses or a 20% stake in 1 million businesses and go live on an island, or what do you really want?
So I thought about this. For a long time, I thought that I wanted to build the next KKR or Carlyle, two of the biggest private equity firms out there. I was like, I'm going to build the next multi-billion dollar private equity company. And then I was in the industry and I was like, have you been, you know you're in a private equity company every time you're in one. You go to a doctor's office, it looks the same as everybody else. They're not that nice to you. The fish looks a little sad in its fish tank. They've just squeezed all the profit out of everything. And I watched private equity do that again and again and again. And I thought, fuck, I don't want to be part of that. Because I've actually made enough money now where, I don't technically have to work anymore, which is awesome. But I don't want to be part of sort of stripping the soul out of America, which is, I think, what happens when you take companies and you standardize them across the whole entire country. I don't think it's actually good for us, and I don't think it's good for communities. In fact, at our company, you're not allowed to put on my corporate credit cards any big corporate chains. You go to Starbucks, you pay for it yourself. You go to a small coffee shop like this guy, I'll pay for it. And so...
that's nice.
Yeah, I think you got to stand for something.
Who's the judge?
Yeah, me. Judge, juror, executioner. Although the team catches me, because one time I bought Chipotle or something. We were running quick, and they were like, "Not on that credit card, you're not." I thought, okay, that's true. You're right.
Because you foster supporting small businesses.
That's the idea. I think it's better. I think it's better when we own the businesses that are in our community in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And I'm not an anti-capitalist at all. I'm a super capitalist. I'm just a little bit of an anti-monopolist. I think we should have lots of people owning things as opposed to few. So
you drink Starbucks? Isn't that a Starbucks?
Absolutely not.
What is that?
This is let's shout them out, Pikey Coffee Co. Which is also bad because members of our team are British, and I think Pikey is not a nice term. So sorry, Christian. But yeah, local coffee shop.
Where did you get it? You hunt them out?
Yeah, I make Tanner look it up, and he knows which ones we'll go to or
well,
not.
That's nice of you.
Yeah, I think plus I like them better.
You're the friend of the small business. And by the way, so do I.
Yeah.
I don't know how Starbucks got so damn popular.
Me neither.
Their coffee is not better than good coffee.
No, and they're great operators, but I just don't think it's great for society. So my real goal, actually, I have one big business we're going to take a big bet on this year. But it's goal aligned. It's aligned with this idea of having multiple small business owners all over the country. And so I like building $1 billion businesses. That's my goal. I want to build, we talked about this before. I want to build one business that's at least worth maybe a couple bill. But I don't want to own small businesses everywhere. I want more people to own them.
You want everyone else to own them.
Yeah.
You just want to invest in them.
Yeah. I want to own a few like we do now.
When you say own, is owning a 20% share in a company, owning it?
I mean, it depends on who you are. For us, we have like two categories. We have our venture capital fund. That's where we own very small percentages in them, obviously. And then we have our holding company. And inside that, we have two different groups. We have majority and minority owned companies. So anything where we have a majority stake, those are my main bigger businesses. And the minority ones, there's, anywhere we probably have like 5 to, let's call it 25% of that company.
Are you the big boss at all of them?
No, God, no.
You have
big bosses, not
partners?
Cody. Yes. As often as possible, actually. In the beginning, it didn't start out that way, but now it is.
You like that?
Yeah, it's too hard to run multiple companies really well over time. Right now, I have 3 that I'm actively involved in. Contrarian Thinking Capital, and the Main Street Holding Company. But 2 of those are holding companies. And the media company, I'm still the CEO of. It's the only company I'm still the CEO of.
How does it monetize?
Well, that one, that one's not really profitable. So that's our business where we do all of our social media and content. And then we have education, courses, events, community in that business. And it continues to fuel the content. So we kind of use it as a virtuous cycle. And then the business that really makes us all the money are the businesses we invest in and buy.
Now, they don't teach you all that at Georgetown, do they?
No, I don't think I learned any of that at Georgetown. Beautiful campus, though.
I was going to say, what do you learn with an MBA? I have a few MBAs working for me, and I didn't get one. So what does it teach you?
I got an MBA because I wanted to credentialize myself. I thought, hey, if I get an MBA, then people will take me seriously. In my opinion, MBAs today are pretty much useless. I think Elon Musk and I believe Elon Musk and who was it? I know Balaji, Elon Musk, Joe Lonsdale, another friend of mine, founder of Palantir. They have all said pretty categorically, we have to rub off the MBA from our candidates. We hire MBAs despite the fact that they have an MBA, not because of it. And I think we've seen this increasingly in the largest institutions, right? Like they are teaching you theories, not actualities. And, I remember it happens frequently, actually. We'll have MBAs come to me who want to talk about buying a business, and they'll go, they went to Harvard, they went to Yale, and they'll say to me, well, that's not how acquisition works. And I go, you done one? And they're like, no, but I've learned about how search through acquisition works. It's like, until you've done one, stop. They give them this fake sense of confidence in doing a thing that they've never done before because of academic practices and a lot of professors that profess instead of actually do. And so I don't actually think my MBA from Georgetown was very useful, except to put at the end of my name so that other people may think that I'm smarter than I am.
What do you think the things to look at are when you buy a business? Like if I said, hey, I want to sell this business, you say instantly, probably, I'm just assuming. Yeah. Send me your financials first.
That's exactly
right.
Let
me see your numbers first.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, what if they're in shambles?
Well, that's often the case. So I buy dreams, not realities, and I buy nice houses, not fixer-uppers. And so there's all different types of investors. I have some friends, like some of the guys who run Cerberus, the biggest turnaround shop out there. If you have kind of a nightmare of a business, but potentially a lot of upside, Cerberus guys are great. They're mean, they're tough, they're smart. They can go in there and fix a business, right? But you'll pay for it. And
how so? Extra equity, extra what?
Oh, they'll make the purchase price incredibly low. They'll beat you up on it. They'll put you in terms where you have to stay at the company for a long time. They'll give you milestones and earnouts where you got to hit X, Y, and Z. If you don't hit this, we're not going to give you their money.
Well, I thought that's where they're coming. Those are their performance thresholds, not mine. I mean, if I sold my company and you told me you got to be here and you better hit this, I'm going to well, what am I selling it to you for then?
Well, that's true, but that's usually how private equity works. That's why I think a lot of people don't want to sell to private equity, because what they don't realize is you don't get a clean sale. Typically, they don't go, okay, we'll give you $100 million for your company and we're going to walk. They go, we'll give you $100 million if this and that, and you're going to stay for 2 years and you're going to have a non-compete. And so that's why a lot of times people like to sell to strategics. So you might sell to let's say that Amazon wanted to have a training company underneath them. Selling to Amazon, you're going to get more money and they're probably going to have less strings attached.
Yeah. So if I'm ready to sell one of these days, do I call you? Would you help me do that?
Of course, yeah.
But did you do it for a living?
No, I don't do that for anybody else, but I do it for you. But
I remember that.
Yeah, of course.
Because I don't know what I'm doing in that regard. I have a intuition, but to me, it's like a book deal. Like I published my own book. And the reason why is because the publisher wasn't going to do anything except advance me some money. And it's like, I don't need the money. What are you going to do? And they're basically nothing. And I'm like, well, then why would I do that?
Yeah.
That's the same thing. This venture capital sounds like that.
Well, I think the private equity has a lot of money. And so,
but if they're never going to give it to you,
they're going to give it to you. They'll just take their piece of skin. They're smart.
But the second I sign that deal, it's their company, whether they give me anything or not, correct?
It really depends on what the deal is.
Terms, yeah.
Yeah, that's the magic word.
But you know all the little tricks, I'm sure.
I like to think I know a lot of them. I'm sure. I mean, there's incredibly sophisticated deal makers out there. We were talking the other day about Bob Iger, for instance. I mean, not a private equity guy, but yeah, he bought what we were talking about. He bought Marvel. He bought Lucasfilms. We were talking about some of the numbers, what he bought them for, and the deal he did. Incredible deals that netted after 3 movies or something like that. So there's a lot of brilliant deal makers out there. I think, like we were talking about beforehand, what most people don't realize is if you want real fuck you money, acquisitions is where real fuck you money happens. The smartest guys and gals out there eventually want to buy something. They don't want to build it every time because you just have multiple effect.
Yeah, I'm getting to that stage right now.
Yeah.
Now, you said laundromats. Mm-hmm. You own some laundromats?
I do.
So my wife's aunt has a laundromat. Ooh. And now she wants to sell it. And I'm thinking, well, should I buy it? How do you know when to buy or not? Is it the profitability? Is it straight numbers?
Yeah, this is the most important part. So first, what I started doing is just telling people on the internet about this opportunity of business buy-in. And then I didn't realize how much inherent knowledge you have to even feel comfortable thinking about what business to buy, even if you understand P&Ls and financials, which you do because you run a business. So the most important part of it is actually, we teach 10 steps, but the second step is called deal clarity. And it's figuring out what's a good business for you individually. And so we have a couple worksheets we teach, which are basically, not everybody should buy a laundromat. In fact, you probably most certainly definitely should not buy that laundromat.
How come?
Because your unfair advantage is not laundromats, and you have such a big platform and inherent business knowledge, you should probably buy a business that's going to increase the value of something else that you already own. You don't know anything about laundromats. I doubt you have a great operator of a laundromat who's going to run it for you already. And your ROI on a laundromat, we had one laundromat that did $3 million a year through wash and fold and delivery. No. Gross. Laundromats are really hard to get to millions of dollars in revenue. So the average laundromat, it's going to make something like $100,000 to $500,000 a year net.
Yeah, but for passive, and I know you don't believe in passive, but for here's some money. I like cash flow.
Well, it's a great business if you have an operator. So if Bradley doesn't have to run it because you are running things that make a lot more than $100,000 a year, then that's a great business.
Yeah, my whole family's blue collar. I call one up and be like, "Hey, buddy."
Well, that would make if you could do that and you don't have to spend mental time on it, then that's an interesting deal. And that's how I did my first one. I had a guy who ran one for me, and then he ended up running a lot for me. And so that's an interesting business. But I like laundromats as the gateway drug. Like how you make, we were talking about this before, really the whole different game. If you want to make $1 million versus 10 versus 100 versus $1 billion, you're probably never going to get your $1 billion with laundromats, right? You might get your $1 billion with other software companies. You might also get your $1 billion with CPG products. Like we can see there's a bunch of data.
What's CPG?
Consumer packaged goods. So
you don't even know that.
Oh yeah. Well, it's just for instance, anything that you sell a retail client. So you could sell coffee, you could sell shirts. You already sell shirts, I think. Kind of.
I give most away.
That's a CPG product. And you know that those sell for billions. But a lot of these smaller businesses are probably not going to sell for billions.
If there's people listening and they want to sell their business, do you want them to submit them to you?
Yes, I do. That would be at mainstreetholdco.com.
Is there like want to sell your business? Click here.
You just click on it. And
I need one of those websites.
You do?
Only because I'll let these guys go to you.
Yeah.
But in the future, when I'm ready, I'm serious.
Yeah, you should.
I want to get into this, except for I don't know much. So I want to get into it with someone that does know much.
Yep.
So maybe later we'll make a deal where I'll drive them in, and then you'll sift them through and see which ones are good, and then
I like it.
Let me in on them.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, we
especially the ones that have zero money down obligations. I love those.
Yeah, well, those we do a lot of.
There's a lot of them out there, and quite frankly, now that you're a celebrity or / influencer, there's people that'll give you equity just because they want you to come show them how to triple their business.
That's very true.
And then the resources and the right ways to go, and it's smart for them to do.
Yep.
You're an idiot if you want to hold on to your business because why would I give Cody half? Well, if her owning half makes you 10 times the money, that's why. Yeah,
that's the most interesting part about doing deals and businesses is trying to get owners to understand what are real valuations and what is real value. And so you're exactly right. Like if The Rock came to me and said, I want to take half of Contrarian Thinking, but I'm going to promote it, even though we have a business that does, it depends on which portions he wants of it, but let's say that does 9 figures a year, I'd go, yep. As long as I make sure that he's going to promote it fully, I would give 50% of the business to The Rock. Why? Because he makes businesses that are worth billions.
Would it be all in the terms on that?
It's all, devil's all in the detail.
Yeah, because that's where I go, now you got a bunch of hoop jumping to go through. You got to show it to a lawyer. I don't trust myself because I don't even read contracts half the time. Now, how smart's that?
Well, you need a really good attorney. I mean, I really believe when you go to paper a deal, you should start on a napkin. And the terms of the deal, I would never put like a full contract in front of somebody else.
But that's where they slip in the loopholes that screw you.
Well, that's why you and your attorney control the contract, not theirs. So if you control the contract, they can't do it. Your attorney is your fiduciary on making sure that the contract is in your best interest. Now, you got to have good attorneys, and I do still read the contracts, but depends.
Personally?
Yeah. I mean, it depends on what the deal is. Like if we're doing something small or some sort of partnership, our attorneys handle it. But if I'm buying a business, I'm still reviewing it and making sure that I haven't missed something.
I always read it right till I see the word notwithstanding. And then I'm like, see, what does that even mean?
Well, it's a good point.
It says something and then it says notwithstanding something else. It's like, wait a minute, you just said this notwithstanding. What the hell?
Yeah, that's fair. Well, you can also have that. That's why I like to start with a napkin. Yeah. And you basically say, hey, I'm going to buy it for this price, these terms. Here's my out. Here's your out. If you don't do this, if I don't do that, and then let's paper the deal and have the attorneys deal with it.
So what if I want to buy businesses? How would I interact with you?
Like if you want to learn how?
Yeah. Or like, I'm listening to the show. People are like, oh, I like this girl. I want to sell my business. You want them to go to Main Street.
Want to go to Main Street Holdco if you want to sell. And if you want to learn how to buy, you go to contrarianthinking.co. And on there we have a free newsletter, goes out every single week about how to buy businesses. We have courses on how to buy businesses. And then only if you're really serious, we have a community, or what I call the Institute, the M&A Institute, which is where we teach how to buy businesses.
Do you need a certain amount of dough to get started?
I mean,
ideally.
I kind of think you want to have like $100,000 that you want to play with. Because with $100,000, you can buy a smaller business and have a nice little slush fund. Because I'm a wuss.
How do you
I don't like
find
risk. How do you find businesses?
The businesses. Like I got $100,000. Yeah. I'll buy one.
Yeah.
Show me which one.
Well, it depends. I mean, that's step 4 of the 10 steps, which is called origination, a fancy word in private equity for finding a business to buy. And there's lots of different ways to do it. I think we have 12 that we teach.
Damn.
But I like buying people that I know. So like if I was you, I'd be looking for we were kind of talking this before. I might be, if your area of expertise is trainers and courses and education, I might be looking at who do I know that I already work with that I want to own a part of their business, or I want to buy the whole thing and I want to commercialize it a better way. I mean, it's not really that different from Bob Iger at Disney, right? Bob Iger goes, I know how to make money with great content, which is just IP, intellectual property, right? So because of that, I know if I can make it with Mickey Mouse, I could also make it with Lucasfilms, aka Star Wars. So I'm going to buy the IP of Star Wars, and I'm going to buy it for, I don't know, $4 billion, because I know if I do 4 videos, if I do 4 movies with that, I can make $12 billion. And yours wouldn't be that different. You'd go, this guy is over here. He's selling his course for this. He's doing this. The content and the IP is actually really good, but he doesn't know how to distribute, market, and monetize this like I do. I'm going to actually buy him out of that, and I'm going to do it. Or I'm going to buy just his IP, and I'm going to put him under terms and contracts. And you could do the same thing for the building that you're in. You could, buy this building theoretically, because then you decrease your rent costs if you don't own this. So I kind of look at everything I spend money on, everybody that I work with, and I think, which of these do I want to buy? That's where I start.
At what point does a small business need a CFO? Big C-suite.
I don't think you really need that until you start getting to like $10 million in annual revenue. You need accountants and you need bookkeepers. But until you get to about 10 million plus, then you might, maybe even a little bit more than that, maybe even 15 or 20, then you need a real CFO. But like, that's really if you just need financial modeling, projections. If you're going to do M&A, a CFO is helpful, but probably not for your first 8 figures.
What's your most sweetheart of a deal lately?
Well, we bought this one business, which I won't name yet because we're final negotiations. I'm buying out the last 5%. And I think I got a deal on it. And
that's almost like gambling, isn't it?
It's addicting. You see the little smirk on my face. There's something really fun about doing deals. Like once you learn how to buy businesses and do deals, you become a junkie if you get good at it. If you fuck up your first deal, you won't. You'll never do it again. You'll hate me. You wish you never listened to this.
And you can get really wealthy.
You can get really wealthy, but you can also lose a lot of money. And so the thing with doing deals, why I obsess on the education side, is because you never lose money learning, right? It's not in the education you lose money. It's in the implementation, in the execution of it. And
I've been forgetting those little devils.
Oh, was that a bomb?
Got a bomb.
Okay. Yeah. So did I just get a bomb? That's a good thing.
That's a very good thing. That means whatever you said, people should pay attention to, because that's a real bomb right there.
Right.
It's not the education you lose the money in.
It's the implementation.
Or lack thereof.
Exactly. That's true. And so because of that, I obsess with people needing to learn. The biggest problem or the biggest mistake you can make in buying businesses is you just start buying them. You go, I was listening to her and I just kind of started doing it. Please don't do that. Go and learn, whether it's from me, whether it's from somebody else. Go and become a little bit obsessed with the process of execution. And only then, after you've been obsessing for 3 or 6 months, should you think about actually purchasing the business.
How much time do you think it takes from somebody's actual day?
Not that much.
Because I am really thinking about it, but I don't have a lot of time. I'm thinking, well, I'll just figure out a deal with you and I'll give you the money and go buy some. But most people that know what they're doing, they're not going to do that. Why would you let me in on the deal? You don't need me in on the deal.
Well, I like the way you talk, because I think the same way. I'm always like, who, not how. I don't have time to figure out how on everything. I don't have time to figure out how on building a training platform. So I use somebody else's, right? I find a who, not a how, which I think is smart. And your who for doing deals is pretty simple. You need an accountant, you need an attorney, and then you need a subject matter expert on the industry. And so,
hey, damn, where's my pen when I need it?
But you could already be the subject matter on the industry. So you could go, ooh, I can tell that this is good business because I know this guy's training stuff. I, have worked with this vendor for a long time. I know they're good. Now, what do I not know? How do I de-risk this? Well, I don't actually know if the numbers that he told me are real. Let's make sure he's not lying to me. And that's why we bring in an accountant. Super easy. You just go send me the financials. You send them to your accountant. You have your accountant comb through and see if what's real is real. And then the second thing is with the legal component.
How do they know? Garbage in, garbage out.
Well, that's could they be faking their IRS tax records? Maybe.
But I would also need access to your bank, wouldn't I?
Yeah, or you'd have your accountant do it. You might need access to your QuickBooks. Or, yeah, if you're going to do a deal, 100%, you might have to sign an NDA, most likely. But yes, you are going to want to actually see the back end of the numbers in order to do the deal. And you have a little bit of an unfair advantage because people know you. They're not some Joe Schmo on the street. You're like, listen, I have a real business. Look me up on the internet. I'm everywhere. I'm seriously considering buying your business, but I need to make sure that the things you tell me are true, because every time we do a deal, I'm at an information disadvantage to you. Yeah. You are in the business. I'm like the doctor who asks you if you've been eating fast food and if your cholesterol is high because of that, and you go, nope, no fast food here. Well, really? And so that's the same thing with the business. I got to make sure you're not lying to me. And so I need to get underneath the hood. And once I'm underneath the hood, then we can do a fair deal. But you got to let me see what's under there first.
Why are so many people willing to give up their business with no cash?
Well, you've run a business for 24 years. Was there ever a part of the business that you've been running where you were like, I am so done with this thing?
Yeah. Somebody offered me $44 million one time. And I'm like, well, that sounds pretty good.
100%.
But they wanted me to, number one, the first $1 million would be within 6 months of execution.
Yeah.
What? What are you talking about? Because to me, when I sign that, it's now your business.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting for my money. Yeah. Well, what if in 6 months my money doesn't come?
Yeah, right.
Now I would literally have to argue my way back that's mine. He didn't fulfill. Well, sue me. So I'm like, first of all, if there's no check involved, there's no conversation. And they didn't have a check, which meant they're full of shit.
Yeah. Well,
in my book.
I think that's a red flag for a business of that size.
Yeah. I want some money.
100%.
Write me a big fat check.
Well, because you have to do due diligence on them too, right? Are you going to pay me? Are you going to put money in escrow because of it? Where I can see it and it's at the bank and I get it the second that I transition everything to you. That's all reasonable.
Yeah.
It's all a negotiation. Doing a deal is just a trust trade. Do you
buy software companies?
I've bought, yeah.
Maybe I'll send you my financials.
Yeah, there you go.
One.
We own 3 software companies right now. One of my big pushes this year will be with a software company.
You like the SaaS models?
I've only ever had these 3 that I've done. And 2 of them are okay businesses. They're good, not great. And then this one business, we'll see. I don't know if I can grow a SaaS company. I've never done it before aggressively.
All you need is a little bit of attention.
Yeah.
I bet you could. What is good, not great? In your mind, what is great versus good?
I think, a great business to me today means that I think this is a business that can do tens of millions and hundreds of millions of dollars eventually. That's a great business. And I have 2 of those. 2 of them that I think can do hundreds of millions, definitely more that do tens of millions, but I don't think can get to hundreds of millions. And so that's a great business, but it varies. It's like the ever shifting, dollar amount that you want in net worth, right? So when I was younger, it was like, can I make 50K off this business? That's a great business. Now that's not as good anymore. But the other 2 businesses, what's that?
10 put together, $500,000 a month. So is there any value to that?
I think it's all dependent on who you are. Just depends on how much money you have and what it's worth to you. I was talking to somebody yesterday and he was like, or it was this morning, he was like, I like to keep $0 in my bank account because if I keep $0 in my bank account, then every 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 feels like a lot. If I leave hundreds of thousands and there are millions, then it doesn't feel like a lot. I think that, at some point you have to decide what you really want to shoot for. And, I remember my first million, my first 10, my first, and then finally there was a point where I was like, the goal is, $1 billion, and anything that I don't think can get me to $1 billion, at least I shoot and land, shoot and miss, land amongst the stars. But anything that's not that is not on the docket right now. But that definitely wasn't the case.
Now you're married. I met your husband at that event, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
And what does he do?
Well, he heads the commercial artificial intelligence portfolio with one other person for the Department of Defense.
Wow.
Yeah, he's a smart guy.
So is he proud of your success?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, he also helps me run our family office and our portfolio with the venture capital fund and the Main Street Holding Company.
Were you already successful when you guys met?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. He was a Navy SEAL. So he was in the military when I met him, and we did like a deployment and a half together. So he was in for a few years, and then he got out and started working in artificial intelligence kind of before that was cool, which I really respect him for. He's very smart. And then, and then started working with the Department of Defense last year, but he's been with a bunch of AI startups.
What are they doing with AI?
Oh man, if you think some of the stuff we do is interesting, getting in the realm of AI is fascinating. I don't know what I can and can't say from him, because a lot of what he does is he has a TSSCI classification, so a top secret clearance. I don't know what it all stands for, but he has like one of the higher levels of top secret clearance. So important. And it's very important in things like us beating the technological war that we're in with China right now, which is very real. And we will lose if people like Chris and the Department of Defense do not bring in the right technology, because it's not going to be a kinetic war like dropping bombs like this, theoretically. It is going to be a technological war, and we're already in it in a lot of ways.
We definitely are. And we're not winning.
It's interesting. You hear 2 perspectives on that. One perspective is that we're not winning, which sometimes I tend to be too. We're part of a think tank called AEI, and we did a war simulation. It's called a war game, which is fascinating. So a couple of experts come in the war simulation was in DC with a group of brilliant minds, and I sat in along it. And it was, what would happen if China took over Taiwan. And they host these war games for senators and congressmen frequently so that they know how to react if something goes down. And the experts on Chinese tech, on Chinese warfare, will be in the ears of the senators saying, well, if you do that, here's theoretically what China's going to do, most likely. And so we did a bunch of war games with them. And basically, in a lot of them, we lost Taiwan. And they were like, there's basically no scenario in which XYZ won't happen. And so I think in some ways we're losing to China, but in others, their population dynamics are going to be really, really hard. Their population dynamics and their control over their economy is going to be really hard. But it totally depends on who you talk to.
I noticed something when I was reading earlier, modern freedom hierarchy. Why don't you explain that?
Yeah. The idea is simply this, that there's 3 levels to freedom. And I think the most important one is critical thinking. Can we think for ourselves? And can you actually have the space to think critically and also say opinions that might not be very popular, which I think is crucial to a free market and free humans. And so there's sort of 3 levels. I think about it first as financial freedom. So that's what we do at Contrarian Thinking. Can we get people financially free? If we can get them financially free, then we can get them physically free, which basically means they can go, they can live where they want, they can work where they want. They're free humans. They're not tied to the fact that they don't have enough to live. And once you can become financially and physically free, then I think you can become philosophically free, which means that you can have deep thoughts on why X or Y or Z is happening. And you can say the quiet thing out loud. And I think we were missing that in 2020. And we're still missing it today. And so maybe if we get more people in a period that's not fight or flight, we can get them to think critically instead. That's our bet.
What do you think an annual salary is for being financially free?
Well, we were just looking at some research that shows that the American dream theoretically costs somewhere about $3.5 million throughout the lifetime of an individual, which translates out to about 59 years from age 18 to 77, the average age somebody dies in the US, which means that they term the American dream, getting a house, 2 kids, college, funeral, etc., at about $58,000 a year in income.
Well, that doesn't buy anything.
It doesn't feel like that does for me either. So I think if we say 3.5 million is the normalized American dream, I think probably it's closer somewhere to around 100K, about double that, especially with the price of inflation. And then the new research shows that we're happier up until we make about $500,000. And then past $500,000, it actually has no effect on net happiness, which I don't know. I've ridden in a few jets. That feels pretty nice. You're not gonna get that with 500K, but that's what the research says. So I think there's somewhere between, if we can get more humans into the realm of somewhere between 75,000 and 500K in the US, we have a lot of our needs met. But people got to earn it too.
But that's what you're trying to do.
That's what we're trying to do.
Now, if someone's going, that's me,
yeah.
Who do they get a hold of and how?
I mean, I think the best thing any human can do is be a curator to the things that go inside their mind. And this is a good place to start with podcasts like yours. I mean, we were talking about it. Yeah. We were talking about it the other day. There would be no world in which somebody would fight me on this idea. If you put a bunch of processed food, fast food, and garbage in your body, you're probably going to become sick, right? Okay.
Eventually.
Yeah, we all now agree that at some point. If you put a bunch of trash ideas, trash content, no learnings, TikToks inside of your brain, I think you're eventually going to become sick too. And I think we're seeing that societally overall right now. People are not curating what goes in their mind like they do what goes in their mouth. And so I think the best place to start is making sure you're really curating who you're following and you're really curating the things that go into your mind. And that's like level 1 to me of where you go for financial freedom.
Yeah, that sounds like a fundamental for sure.
Yeah.
When people ask me, because I say 300,000, you're much easier.
Interesting.
100 grand. Like, I don't know how you live on that. Think about it. I mean, after 100, you talking about net? Because like, if you make 100, you're only bringing home what, 55, 60?
No, because they have a much lower, they probably only pay what, 20-ish% in taxes. It depends on which state you live in, maybe 30%.
Okay, let's go 30.
Okay.
So if I'm making 100, I only get 70.
Yeah.
What's your average rent?
In the US?
Yeah.
Well, Probably, I would guess somewhere between like 800 to 2K.
Hey, you want to spend an hour a week with me helping you become a business badass? Well, check out my group in the link below. That's damn near all of it.
Yeah.
Now what? What about gas? What about insurance? What about dry cleaning? What about food?
Yeah.
Do you have any kids? Boom. Dude, 70 grand goes like this. I don't understand how people can live on 70 grand. Yeah. I'm talking about with a family, obviously a little 18, 25-year-old that's living, at mom's or even in an apartment or a roommate. Yeah. You can get by. It's not living. So 100 grand, I think you're being generous, but let's go.
I think you're right, but I think a weird thing happens for us. We've probably been away from the 100K mark for a long time, right? Like it's been a minute since we've lived on 100K a year.
I couldn't.
Yeah. But that natural distance that we have for it means that we kind of forget how normal that is. Like to most people in the US, $100,000 a year is a lot of money. And so I actually think it's almost like we forget what it was back then. And then we say things like, there's no way we could live off of that.
Not with the family.
I see a lot of people. Yeah. I agree that I would like people to make more. 100%.
I want 300.
Yeah.
So in my mind, 300,000, you're starting to live.
Yeah.
Why? Because you need a little extra, by the way. I was going where we get to the bills, but you need extra to invest. Yeah. Because to get out of the rat race, you need to invest. You can't just earn and never invest. Mm-hmm. So you need a little left to invest. How long is it going to take you to be successful if you're investing the $900 you have left?
Yeah.
And not even enjoying life because that's the only 900 I have left. So you need a little bit of money. Yeah. 300 grand is my thing.
And that's if you're a couple with a couple kids.
And I say to them,
yeah, you
got to sell something. That's my whole, I can show anyone how to make $300,000 a year, but they got to sell something. So I don't want to sell anything. Well, then go get a different book. I don't know what to tell you, but if you're saying, hey, listen, I want to make 300 grand, I'll sell something. It's so easy to do. What are you selling? Like that is easy to do.
Well, yeah, but there's so many different types of humans, right? Like how many humans have you met that that's not how they're inclined. There's no way they're going to be able to sell something unless they massively step out of their comfort zone. What's that?
Train them.
For sure. But I think, let's think about a business. So I think there's 3 ways to get a business for $0. And they're not all selling. The easiest way, to your point, is bring them more money. The easiest way to make more money is to sell people things and to sell people more things and to sell people more expensive things. I think you're totally right. And that's the same with buying a business. I could buy your business for $0 if I say, hey, I'll pay you more for it because I will grow the top line revenue of the business. And so I want $0 for 50% of it, but I'm going to bring you actually a bunch of revenue from sales. Okay, totally doable. The second way is to decrease pain. Right? So if you're an entrepreneur and Bradley, you're dying because you are a slave to your business, you don't have a business, you really have a job, let's say, and somebody comes along and they go, I'm going to operationalize your whole business. Brad, you're not going to have to work anymore because I'm so good at ops that I'm going to structure things in a way in which you don't have to do all these things you used to do. Second way, now you don't have to sell anybody except you one time on that. That's a way you can buy a business for $0, decrease pain or operationalize a business. That's how like Deloitte and all the big consultants make a bunch of money because they're really good at ops. And then the third way that you can do this is to decrease costs, right? So maybe I'm not very good at selling stuff, but maybe I'm really good at finding all the fat inside of a business. And I can cut off all the fat inside of a business so you don't have to bring in any more money because you're actually going to be spending less. And so I do agree sales is the easiest, but I do think the other two paths work as well.
Cutting the fat out of the business, though, is like ripping the soul out of America.
Maybe.
Kinda. Like when you said that earlier, I was thinking, she came in here, man, she'd be getting rid of my Voss water and you'd be getting rid of all my...
I would be getting rid of your Voss water. That stuff looks expensive.
Well, it's just not necessary is my point.
Yeah.
But see, that's because I'm still here.
Yeah.
And not only that, like I want you to like being here. You know what I mean? So I don't skimp. If you came in and bought this business, I guarantee you'd rip some fat out. But at the end of the day, I'd walk around all bummed out. Why? We can't provide water to people. Like, come on. But to me, that's corporate.
Well, that might not even be where you start. What if you said you could make cuts in my business, but you can't touch anything that I can see? And I might go, okay, so what would that look like? I would immediately go renegotiate all your vendor contracts. Right? You get the exact same service, but how often are your people renegotiating the things that you already pay for?
See, this is my problem. Everybody I want to hire is like you that is not hireable because you're already out there doing your own thing.
Well, the thing you should do instead maybe, or you could do instead, is when you get ideas like this, you just have a number two that goes and executes on them. I have a great number two operationally that I go, Bradley just told me this thing. Why aren't we renegotiating our vendor contracts? Go talk to them right now. You know, I might say like, okay, show me all the most expensive things that you pay for right now across the business. Could we just go and get them for free if we talk about it in the podcast instead? All right, let's get Voss Water for a year for free because Brad wants it, but let's do it by going to Voss Water Direct and saying we're going to do X, Y, and Z, or putting a little advertising thing on top of it. And so there's lots of different ways you can cut costs in a business, being more creative.
Is this how you like go in and increase value in a business? Just showing them little things like this?
It depends. You know, I used to buy businesses like bonds. Like, you know how you buy a house and you rent out the house and you don't make many changes to it? That's path one. If I buy a bigger business and I want to grow it, it's the path I just talked to you about. Yeah, I go in there and I go, where can we automate, delegate, and outsource? Where can we operationalize the business in a more intelligent way? Where can we cut costs? And where can we increase sales? And those are the four legs of the stool.
Is it you that's going in and doing things, or do you have a whole team of people?
I have a team. I'm actually not a great operator. And my team would tell you that. I'm forgetful. I have to note everything. I have to have to-do lists. I have to have project management because I have too many things going on. It's chaos up here. So I need number twos that aren't very good at the vision, but they're great at doing the things that they say that they're going to do consistently. That's my biggest issue. So I want to eat the world. And then my team goes, take it easy. We're just going to do one thing at a time.
Do you psychologically profile them at all?
Yeah, we do.
Which one do you use?
Well, I'm agnostic to which type. You can do whatever you want. We oftentimes use really something simple like 16 personalities, which I think is just like 16personalitytest.com. And that's the ENFJ, whatever. What's that one called? That's not Myers-Briggs. It's the other one.
There's
a billion.
Yeah.
But what I'm really looking for is we ask two questions when we interview that I think are really critical that I got from a consultant of mine. Then the questions are, is this person born for this job? And would I be scared if they went to a competitor? And when I'm hiring for the top level people, I want somebody where I would be scared if they went to a competitor. And I want somebody where it's so obvious they should have this job, it's almost comical.
Or you just keep looking.
Or I keep looking.
See, I guess maybe it's Vegas. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking right now I don't really need a CFO.
Yeah.
Based on your answer, I do, but I don't even think at that level I do.
Uh-huh.
But I need a controller.
Yeah.
So I've put an ad out. I've been on social media. I've looked around. It's on LinkedIn and the Monster and all that. And everybody that I get is just like, I don't find those people.
Yeah.
Is it me?
No, I use a lot of recruiters.
You like headhunters?
I like headhunters a lot. Why? Because it's sniper versus rifle.
I know, but I've tried headhunters and I pay well, it's not exorbitant if they're really good and they're really, no, I think they're just throwing out people.
Well,
if it doesn't work, we'll give you another one. Well, I don't want it not to work and I don't want another one. I want one. I want my guy or my girl.
Yeah.
I personally think, like I told you earlier, I'd already be $1 billion deal.
Yeah.
I always say, well, I'm just, dumb. I'm really dumb. I'm joking about that. I'm not that stupid, but I am serious about the leadership. Like for some reason, I can't find a team that I would say, hey, go do this.
Yeah.
And trust that it would get done. Is it me?
Well, two things I would say. One, this is a little woo-woo. I'm from Austin now, so maybe I'm allowed to be that. I do think the things we say about ourselves matter. I
already know that's the truth. I better quit talking shit.
You do. You need to stop talking shit about
I know,
Brad.
but it's like, dude, it's not about me.
I know.
It's about everybody
the second
else.
that you start saying, one, the things we say tend to become reality, right? So if you say, I'm dumb or I'm not that smart, that's not true. But if you were, let's say you're going to hire somebody and I go, yeah, I want you to go work for this guy. And then they listen to one of your podcasts and you go, well, I'm not that smart. I'm pretty dumb. Do you want to work for somebody who thinks they're smart and dumb, or they're not very smart and they're kind of dumb? No, of course not. You want to work for somebody that you're like.
But I would if I knew he was joking, which I'm clearly joking.
Maybe.
No, I'm joking.
Okay, good. Well, I think one, you got to take that out of your vocab because you're very smart and it's obvious and you're humble about it. You know, you're like, hey, it's hard work. It's not like some crazy IQ thing, which I actually agree a lot with. And then the second part is I would probably start saying things like, I have the best fucking leaders around me. I just have to find the right people in the right seats. And then a wild thing happens, which is
it happens.
Great people start getting attracted to you because guess what? It would also be scary to me if I wanted to come work for Brad Lee and I think I'm a great leader. And he goes, well, none of my leaders work out. I go, fuck, so I'm not going to work out? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think those little tiny things matter. It's almost like you need to say it first. And then I think you find your first one. You know? I think you find your first one.
No, I have a couple.
Yeah.
They're the good ones. And you know, one of them, the best one, is a partner.
There you go.
I said, here, we don't want him going anywhere.
Exactly.
But no, I you are right 100%. I got to quit doing that.
Yeah, I think it's...
I do it almost like because I want to hear your opinion.
Yeah.
And so like I'll serve it up, but you are 1000% correct. And I am probably screwing myself by doing it, even though it's all in jest, all in fun.
Yeah.
Because I got some good people. And yeah, you know, but to me, it is harder in Las Vegas. See, and I just said it again. I shouldn't do that.
Yeah. You know, I was joking with somebody on this other podcast we were on the other day, and I was like, when women say it's just hard dating in New York, I'm like, no, because you say shit like that. It's not hard dating in New York's so full of people. I could throw a penny at like 37 guys worth dating in New York just from standing on top of a skyscraper. So no, it's not hard. It's maybe that you have unrealistic expectations. It's maybe not, you're not putting yourself out there enough. It's maybe that you're not a top 1%er, but you want a top 1%er. There's lots of things that could be true. But if you say that it's categorically hard, I don't know. Plus these days you could have operators that aren't based here that you just need to attract.
Well, you just hit it on the head because to me, the people that I am putting at that level are people like you, people that are clearly unhireable. Like, in other words, they're another me.
Right.
To where now it's like, I know you're not coming to work here. Hey, you want a job, Cody? Yeah. You're not coming. And I might be talking myself out of it, but you're also not coming. So at the end of the day, I might have my standards too high.
And also, I'm a nightmare. I would be so unemployable for you.
I don't care about nightmare. I care about bottom line results where if I have, because I'm the visionary, I have some unbelievable ideas. And if you weren't you and you were here and you were capable and you were, this smart freaking, asset, I could say, Cody, listen, blah, 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 blah. And you'd be like, oh my God, that's brilliant. And then it happens.
Well, I think.
Well, that's because you're an executor. You're a doer.
That's true. But you actually don't want another visionary or another strategist. You want an executor.
I do.
You actually want somebody.
Exactly. Then I don't want you. I want executors.
But executors often don't present the same way that visionaries or strategists do.
And maybe I think I want these presenters, and when in reality, I want the ones I'm thinking is not going to do anything.
That's exactly right. You want to find the number twos. You want to find the man behind the curtains. You want to find the person that doesn't want to ever be in front of one of these because they want to be behind the scenes, making sure that the stuff's happening while you're in front of one of these.
Have you ever hired those people and then found out that they do want to be on this?
Yes, of course. I've definitely.
That's what I keep attracting.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to be the star. You're the star, bro. I just want to work under you and learn everything you can. And then as soon as you go, okay, come on, here's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Hey, can I get on that?
Yeah. Well, best predictor of future success behavior is past behavior, right? So best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. You don't want to find a young gun that's never done anything before and you train him up and give him all the intel or her all the intel. And then, they eventually do this. You want the person who's already built it for somebody else. Just like the same way I don't start businesses, I buy them. I don't train people from the ground up. I hire them. From somebody who's already done it.
So if you were looking for a controller, just a controller, would you look for a CFO to put into a controller, or would you look for a accountant or a bookkeeper that wants to be a controller?
I'd probably look for a controller at another firm that wants to become a CFO one day. They might, I'm like 100%. Right now you're going to do this here, lateral move. But if you crush it for me, and here's what crushing looks like, then your upside's unlimited.
Nice.
And let's go. but I like stealing from companies that are similar enough to me, but better. And so we have this matrix. I'll give it to you afterwards. It's a hiring matrix that we put every single person we hire through. And there's basically 5 different steps to them. And every single one of those, we give a ranking to the people. And it helps you screen out. Because the problem with people like you and me, what do? We hire people like us because we go, I like that guy. Why? Because I like me and he's got to like me. And it's our natural inclination. And that is actually not what we want. We want a very specific profile for each role. And so we use this matrix that we run our people through. I'll send it to you and you can post it wherever you want if people want to, listen to this afterwards and use it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Richard
Branson hires the number one at the top company. That wants to be a CEO. So for example, I forgot who explained it, but he does something similar. He'll go to the top number one company out there, his competitor, and take the, let's say the COO and say, would you like to be a CEO?
Yeah.
And then that's how he gets all his top people.
Yeah. I love it.
You don't find that like maybe in this business, like I always think, not this business. You don't understand this business. This is a unique business.
Yeah.
Do you get that?
Yeah. It was probably a Tony Robbins thing, but somebody said something to me a long time ago that I've stolen. And I remind myself often, which is I always remind myself, it's not why won't this work for me? It's how could it? So I always go, it's not why not, it's how could. And when I do that, little magic starts to happen for me. And my team gets annoyed by this because I feel like often I don't have any original ideas. I just see models of things that already exist and are working. And I go, okay, how do we take that model and apply it to ours? So let's say, for instance, I wanted to grow like, a training company. I would go to the top training companies out there or I would set a recruiter on them because you don't have a ton of time. And I'd say, find me the best talent in this level role at these 12 companies and just give me those guys. And then let me see if they hit my screens. But they already know my problems. They're already better than me in some ways. And so I'm just going to steal their homework and I'm going to apply it to my business. And the only rules I have on that is I don't hire from friends. But besides not hiring from friends, everybody is
You don't hire
open
from
season.
friends, huh?
No.
Interesting. Why is that?
I think it's a bad form. I really do believe that.
You become friends with your employees.
Oh, well, I don't hire I would never steal one of your employees, for instance.
Oh, you don't?
Because we're friends.
I got you.
I don't steal employees. That's a rule we have at the company. So if anybody ever comes to me and they're like, Cody, I work for Brad, but I want to come work for you. I go, you tell Brad himself and you go work for somewhere first. And then you can come work for me. But I don't like stealing talent.
That's a good
I think it's
rule.
bad karma.
It is. And not only that, we wouldn't be friends long if you did.
Exactly. But a lot of people do that.
I know someone that's going through that right now and they're at odds.
It's not worth it.
I called one of my clients, but he was also a friend. And there was a girl quitting there.
Yep.
And I called him and I said, dude, like I need that girl like that. I'll bet you she could kick ass here. He said, go ahead, bro.
That's the right way to do it.
I said, you sure? He said, yeah, I did it. And he was pissed anyway.
Oh, no, really?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's his problem, not yours.
I know, but like at the end of the day, like I asked him, but I'm to the point now where it's like, I won't, someone works with you and they call me, it's like, nah.
Yeah. If somebody's already quit or they're quitting and I call the person up and ask them if I can hire, well, first of all, I'm going to call up the person that they worked for anyways, because I want to know if they were good or not, and I do think the way things start is the way that they end. So if somebody bails on their company in a sneaky way to come to you, what are they going to do to you when the next person comes who's a little bit shinier than you are?
Yeah.
Well, they're going to bail on you too. So I don't play that game typically.
I almost want to say, how old are you? Because you speak like you have a lot of experience and you look so young.
Well, thank you. I'm 37.
Yeah,
so I'm not that young. I'm wearing a lot of makeup too. Anytime these fucking studio lights come on. Oof.
Well, number one, that is young.
Thank you.
Number two, like less than 20 years ago, you were 17.
Isn't that weird?
Okay, so like you speak like you're a freaking 65-year-old CEO from.
Do I?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, you have a lot of experience, a lot of know-how.
I do.
You surround yourself with a lot of smart people.
Yeah, definitely.
Learn from them.
Yeah, I think a lot of things are contagious. And one of the truths that I wish somebody had told me sooner, and I got lucky. I didn't get told, I got lucky, was, lots of people don't want people to go to corporate America. They're like, that's awful. Why would you work for the man? corporate America is an incredible place to start because they can afford to train people like crazy. When I started at Vanguard, they said that the average employee at Vanguard, they spent $100,000 in training on them. So instead of me paying for a $100,000 MBA right out the gate, Vanguard paid for one for me. Now, they didn't pay me much money, but they paid me in learning. And that was incredibly valuable. And so I think I got to steal a lot of 10,000 hours from Vanguard and State Street and Goldman Sachs. And that's why I get to do, what I do now today. But it's all accumulated knowledge, certainly not inherent knowledge.
Is that what $100,000? Is that what an MBA costs roughly?
I don't actually. I think an MBA today, depending on the schools, is anywhere from $650 to $150. I'm sorry, $65,000 to $150.
I know where you can get a better one for 5 Gs.
Oh, I agree. What I think, Brad? The thing that's annoying me lately is you run a training systems business, and I really get annoyed that people think that courses in education done not at institutions are bad or lowbrow. And I understand why people think that, because there are a lot of people that talk about stuff in absolutes that they've never actually done. But I think the best education today is not to be had at any academic institution. The best education, if you want to learn philosophy, go learn it from Jordan Peterson, in the class that he teaches on religious philosophy at Daily Wire. If they want to learn sales, come learn it from you and Alex Hormozy. Like, why wouldn't you go to the best in the world to do it as opposed to some professor that's never actually done the thing except theorize about doing the thing? So that's one thing that I think is really annoying and I want to change.
Well, I would agree with you. There's so many things I could talk to you about that are like, we'd be here another hour. I want to be mindful of your time.
Well, thanks.
But I agree with that 1,000%. The difference between training and exposure, which most companies are doing, there's a difference between training and exposure. So what happens is there's people with good content that come out with a course. Like you say, you have courses. I don't know. I've never looked at them. I know they're not on Lightspeed, which tells me more than likely it's a video. And if it's a video, well, I don't know why you're calling it a course. Call it a video because that's what it is. And you don't learn from watching a video. Because if you did, I'd be a black belt because I watch mixed martial arts all the time. I watch UFC every time it comes out. I've watched thousands of them. I'm no better of a mixed martial artist. So you need 4 things. Good content, which is on the video, or it is the video. Yep. Then you need repetition, practice, and accountability. And without those 4 things, you're not training them, you're exposing them. And most companies, even big ones with stupid training budgets, if you break down what they're actually doing, they're not training. Yep. They're exposing their employees or their team to training. They're exposing it to good information. And they're still getting an ROI because, believe it or not, the most valuable return on investment, I think the highest return on investment you can make is going to be training, proper
totally
training.
I agree.
And most people, they don't understand that. It makes no sense to me either because there's some huge companies with huge training budgets and they're spending millions training, and then you dissect what they're actually doing. They're not training, they're exposing. Person at Bellagio over here, they had to train everybody on diversity, mandatory, $950 an employee. How many employees you think they have? It's a ridiculous amount. And so I know a couple that were going through it. I said, what do you do? Well, I just got to go in and sign a piece of paper that says I was there and then we'll be over. And I'm like, well, don't you have to be there? No, I just have to sign a piece of paper that says I was there. $950. Some companies charging them $950. There's no accountability. There's no repetition. There's no practice. It's ridiculous.
I agree.
So I don't even know why I started harping about that.
Well, we were talking about the importance of education and why a lot of it's done outside of institutions.
Oh, yeah. And you said the more value is outside. Yes, I agree with that.
But with a caveat that it needs to be done right.
Well, I mean, again, there's people out there with great content.
Yeah.
But they don't have a training system. They have a video and they're selling the video. Yeah. And then people go through the video, which is good if it were in a system. Yep. If it were delivered, tracked, measured, held accountable. But it isn't because it's just a video, which is good content. And so now they'll get a bad rap and say, all these courses that these guys are selling ain't working. And then there's people that haven't done shit, saying that they'll teach you something that they've never done. And that is shit. So mix the good shit with poor execution, with all the bogus shit all together.
Yep.
And that's why you get people saying that lowbrow, oh, you got to go to Harvard. I guarantee you I've got a course. It's called the 4-day MBA. It's by the man, Keith Cunningham. You ever heard of him?
Yeah, I have, but I don't know him.
Well, Keith Cunningham, if you did know him, he's one smart son of a gun. He's actually the rich dad from Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Oh, sure. I've heard of him. Okay.
Yeah, so he is the rich dad. And anyway, he lost like $100 million at 40. He's been doing this a long time. He put together this 4-day MBA that he would bring people in for a 4-day thing in Austin. And it's the only way you could go. And it was $8,900 for 4 days. And everybody that left there said, dude, this is better than the MBA I got from Harvard. I'm talking about testimonial after testimonial. So he was shutting that down for life. And I know him. So I said, Keith, we got to VT that up so people can do it. And so he said, yes. And now we have it. And we're about ready to release it. But
do you get a little equity in that?
of course I do.
Okay. There we go. It talks about doesn't buy businesses.
It's not my business.
Well, you own part of it.
Well,
it is partially
I
your
don't
business.
own part of it. I just get a little license fee.
Okay.
I get I call
fun fact.
I call a piece for the niece, a little slice because I'm nice. Tad for Brad.
Yeah, these one-liners.
Fraction of the action.
I still feel like you have to be from Texas. Oregonians don't speak this way.
Sliver to deliver.
That's hysterical. You were in sales. I think
if I showed you how to make twice as much as you're making on your courses without doing anything except move it from wherever it is, which is probably some hosting solution, over to Lightspeed, and I made you twice as much, and I said, can I just get a little slice of that extra? What would you say? No?
I'd say maybe.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, you'd have to deliver.
So
you'd
rather
some turns.
So you'd rather make
100%
100% of what you got going rather than 80% of double.
Yeah, no, of course not. Yeah, I mean,
but I could, and there's a reason I could, and I know I could. It's like scientific. You can't argue it.
Can't argue with the science.
Yeah, and it's not a pitch either. It's literally, because when you send somebody through a course, 9 times out of 10, you're not asking any questions. You're not collecting any data, and because of that, because it's just a video they're watching.
Yeah, well, that would not be the way that I do it. I mean, the way that we do it, but I'm a finance gal, so we track every metric. We've had $266 million in revenue bought over the last year that we've been tracking in our community and course. And I think you're right. The most important part is the repetition.
Yeah.
So every single Monday they have to do a deal review. How do you get good at doing deals? You review a shit ton of them. How do you get good at talking to the owner for the first time? You have to do a ton of owner conversations.
Yeah, so you're doing repetition. You're not making them watch a video.
No, I mean, video's a part of it, because I think you got to indoctrinate a little bit, and you need common language.
You got to deliver the information somehow.
Exactly. Otherwise, if they don't watch the videos to start with, and then they come on and do deal reviews, it's like watching a toddler try to speak. It's tough. So they need to go and watch that first, and then they come on and they do the reviews. And then we have...
When you say come on, is it like
it's a call.
Coach? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the part that I tried to set up is I thought, okay, when I was first doing a deal, how did we review deals when we were a private equity group? Well, we got together in the investment committee. The investment committee happened once a week. And during that investment committee, we reviewed deals live. And we had to break them down. And people beat the hell out of our deals. And it felt awful and it felt tough. And only when we got really good would they pass it to the next level. And when we went to try to go find deals, what did we do? We tracked every single activity we ever did. We had coaching calls where we basically had somebody listen in to me talking to an owner of a business trying to get his financials. And so we do that same thing. And then we have, brokers who are the people that buy and sell businesses. And those individuals, twice a month, we have a deal sourcing call. And so it's like, let's listen to you live. Call a bunch of these people and talk to them. Or if you don't want to do it live, let's do a fake one. Tell me why I should give you the information on buying my business. And so,
well, that's probably why your shit works.
Yeah, our stuff, it's not going to work if you don't do the work. That's the one thing I haven't figured out how to do is get people to follow through all the way. The biggest reason why anything that we do won't work, and reason why anybody doesn't do won't work, is if the person stops showing up. And I think that is the one thing that universities have above our businesses is they're almost not optional, right? Society has said you have to get a degree, so people kind of show up for class continuously.
You know how many people don't show up for class
That's
too?
true. Actually, that's true. A lot of people
you can't stop that, because we've been trying for 24 years.
You just can't
my whole
teach
thing
desire.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't understand, because like sometimes we'll have training systems. All ours are like online.
Yeah.
We convert to coaching calls in live.
Yeah.
But it starts out online on demand.
Yeah.
And everybody had the same thing, man. And man, we wish we would use it. We sold 1,000 people our deal, but only 220 are doing anything.
Yeah.
How do we get the rest of them to use it? And after 24 years, I just started to go, are they paying for it? They go, yeah.
That is.
Then sleep well.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, that's not nice.
What's the average usage rate?
I bought a treadmill.
Yeah.
No one showed up to see if I was riding it.
Dude, me too, actually. I have one of those desk ones.
But at the end of the day, no one shows up. Hey, you riding that thing? They want me to ride it, but at the end of the day, you can't. I haven't found a way to do it. We added gamification. We add badges. We add things. Yeah. Our utilization and adoption rate on Lightspeed is higher because of these things than most anything out there. We make it fun, sexy interface, interactive.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah, so I mean, at the end of the day, we do the best we can, and ours is 31%.
Okay, interesting.
And the you know what the average is?
No.
Less than 20. So if you sell 1,000 people a course, a video, I should say, because you got a course, you're doing more than just the video. You're saying, hey, go through that so you understand what we're talking about, then come in here and work.
That's right.
Most people, not all, are doing that. You know what they're doing? Give me $1,000 and you get my video.
Yeah.
Here's my video.
Work. Yeah.
Call me if you need anything. Those don't work.
Interesting.
So you're doing it right.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
We're certainly obsessing about it. I mean, we spend millions of dollars a year on it. Because I want to come up with, we're in talks with the University of Texas right now, and I'd like to figure out how could I actually get accreditation for an M&A course, because they're awful. The one at Penn, which I think is the best out there, and at Wharton, is like $15,000 for 3 days, and that's it. And you don't do any implementation or repetition or continual actual execution. I'm like, this isn't going to solve the fact that we need more people to buy businesses. It's just not. The universities don't have it right. So I'm in talks with a few universities about, can we get this? The problem is, I think for college kids, it's not the move. We need people who have a little bit more experience to be doing this than those right into college, buying businesses.
You think?
Well,
I think it's for.
Have you met like a 18-year-old kid lately? I gave a little lecture at these, and yeah.
Well, no one's going to take an 18-year-old seriously anyway.
Yeah.
If an 18-year-old came in here and said, "Yeah, I'd like to buy your business," I'd say, "Really?
You got a rich dad?"
Yeah, but I mean, if a really intelligent, well-spoken individual walked in and he happened to be, or she happened to be, 25.
Yeah, totally.
I'd listen. Why? Because, man, I know some successful ass youngsters.
I agree. Yeah.
And they grew up in all this, which is crazy because I didn't have any of it.
I think they're smarter than us in most ways. I don't really get too scared about the industry incumbents. I get scared about the younger, smarter, more tech savvy Cody. That'll be the one that, beats me to my $1 billion idea.
Are you looking to grow? What can the bomb squad? That's my listeners.
Oh, I love that.
What can the bomb squad do to help Cody Sanchez? Is it Sanchez or Sanchez?
Either way, I'll go by both.
I noticed that you said Sanchez.
I mean, you put a little accent on my name. Yeah. No, I think I say Cody's. Now I'm confused. Cody Sanchez? Yeah, Cody Sanchez.
You say Sanchez.
Yeah.
So how can we help you? You gave us all this value. How can we pay you back?
What I want people to do is to figure out how to buy these small businesses that are closing all across our country. That is my ask for humans, is if you work in a business and the owner looks like they're a little bit older and ready to retire, start thinking about how to take it over. So my biggest fear is that we become Japan, where small businesses are closing everywhere because nobody wants to take them over, or
profitable. Why wouldn't anyone want to take them over?
I want to be on TikTok, not run a business.
Wow.
And I think people don't know how. People are scared about ownership because we've taught people just how to be employees for years. We haven't taught people how to be owners.
That's what I'd like to change. Change the damn schools so they're teaching what you're teaching. as they grow up. And by the time they're 18, they do know these things.
Yeah, I think, as you get into so that's what I want. I want people to learn ownership, whether that's through us, through somebody else. I think our country looks a hell of a lot better with less Starbucks and less KKRs and Carlyles and more individual small businesses. And so that's our mission.
How many small businesses are there in the U.S.?
Okay. I mean, there's 11 million small businesses for sale in the U.S.
Is there a listing for these?
All over the place. We own a company called BizScout, where you can find small business listings. There's companies like BizBuySell, LoopNet, where they list them. But there are, depending on how you categorize it, we're talking tens of millions of small businesses.
Profitable?
Well, it all really depends. There's lots of businesses that are jobs, not businesses. But the nice part about buying a business is your biggest risk to failure is your first 5 years in business. That's where 50 to 60% of businesses fail. When you get into year 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you have a much lower likelihood of the business failing.
So after 24 years, am I rock solid?
You're very unlikely to fail as a small business percentage-wise after the first 10 years. I know it never feels like that to an owner. We feel like we all own barely glued together series of catastrophes, but the Lindy effect says over time, the longer you've been around, the longer you will persist.
What are the statistics? I heard like X% will never hit $1 million.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's this fascinating study. So first of all, there were 5.08 million businesses started in 2022. In 2012, there were something like 2 million businesses created.
Wow.
So we have 3x almost the amount of small businesses created in 10 years, but our population has only grown by 9%. So I think it's never been easier to start a small business, but it's never been harder to have a profitable small business. And so a lot of people are out there starting businesses when instead they should be looking to buy the ones that already exist. That's my take.
That's a brilliant take. And I'll tell you, I'm just getting I got to quit talking. Funny. I'm realizing now that is 100% the smartest way to go. I keep building them from scratch.
It's hard.
It's not really, but I'm taking a bigger risk. It takes a lot longer. There's no reason for it. Like I'm getting older, I'm getting smarter. I'm thinking to myself, man, why don't I just buy that one that's already in existence? I've already got the clients. They've already got the brand. They've already got the cash flow. They've already got the C-suite. They've already got everything. Why am I doing all this from scratch?
Well, I don't think you're crazy for doing that. It's because doing deals sucks until you close the deal. It's like when you start a business, you're like, this is fun. We can get our first dollars kind of fast. There's like forward momentum that happens that compounds when you start a business. And our little monkey brains like the fact that we get an endorphin response continuously from those small wins. When you do a deal, you're like, nothing, pain, nothing, until finally you execute on a deal. And so I think it's actually normal that you start businesses instead of buy them because it feels less painful to start them in a lot of ways.
And the ROI's better.
Well, it really depends on what you do.
Well, 9 times out of 10, when you all the ones I do, there's not a lot of cash put in.
Yeah.
It's execution and sales generates revenue, reinvest the revenue, grow, scale, reinvest, and pretty soon now you got a nice little business. Yeah. But to me, you had statistics where like X% will make $1 million.
Oh yeah.
X% will be in business 5 years later. Like, I don't know what the numbers are, but I thought there was something like. I can't
remember the exact number. We have something called like 9 steps to scale up. And so basically, if you look at the data, there's like a valley of death that happens before $1 million in revenue, before $10 million in revenue, and certainly before $100 million in revenue. And that's where most companies die, is in between the two, or in between the three. But most small businesses, and I can't remember what the number is, but it's wild. It's something like 60+% of small businesses, might be 70, 80% of small businesses will never hit $1 million in sales. And then I think the percentage for, and Tanner, I don't know if you remember, but the percentage for $10 million businesses is like a fraction of
that fraction.
Exactly. And so 10 million, I mean, if you think about it, you and I might look at 10 million and go, I can, been there, done that. But for most people, they'll never touch anything like that.
You know what else is funny?
Wow.
A lot of people assume, 10 million a year's Lambos and yachts.
Oh, yeah.
When in reality, it's not.
No.
It's spreadsheets.
Yeah.
and brain damage.
Yeah. What we always say, it's, building a big business with lots of cash in it. Your employees the average employee thinks that a small business makes 37% margin a year. The average small business makes 6% margin a year. Yeah, Walmart, 3%.
Well, I don't feel so bad then.
Yeah, don't feel bad. So you're right. Stress and spreadsheets, not yachts and Lambos. That's the truth of it is. Most of the money is made, which is why you have to sell businesses at some point. Most of the money for small business owners is made on the sale.
The exit.
Yeah.
Really?
It's when you exit. Mm-hmm.
Folks, let me ask you a question. If you're not already convinced she knows what she's doing, I'd say go check it out. So I interrupted you again when I said, how can we help you? Go buy businesses.
Go find
what
businesses,
else?
go buy them, and share the story with me.
You
I
got
wanna
a
hear
book
about
or
it.
anything?
I'm going to have a book coming out in December. I'm going to harass you when that comes out because I'm going to want to come on again when I have like a really specific thing to talk about.
Good. Well, they're going to want you back by then. I appreciate you guys coming in. Thanks for spending so much time.
Thanks for loving enough to be here.
Folks, if you guys don't know her already, now you do. You can go follow her at Codie Sanchez, just like it sounds, CODIE SANCHEZ. She puts a lot of material on social media. She's got like millions of followers, and you can learn a lot just by following her. So even if you aren't ready to go take a full-blown course in education and buying businesses, go follow her for sure. And then if you want to sell your business, hit up Main Street Holdco.com.
Yeah, you nailed it. Yeah.
And get that going. And if you guys are willing to buy businesses, hit her up. She'll show you how. Till next time, keep it real.
The 4 things. Number 1, you have to know how to do it in the first place. That's called good content. So you have to know how to onboard, how to sell, how to service, how to whatever. You have to have the right information to begin with. Because if you're, like you said, teaching them shit jobs, then you get people doing shit jobs.